All right, if you're new here, our Sunday six-pack record speaks for itself. You can go and look at all the picks in the Action Network app. They are tracked under the Sunday six-pack account if you go to the follow tab. All right, let's get into it.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday six-pack.
I'm going to go for my first pick of the 2024 Week 1 Sunday six-pack. Feels weird to say. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers +4 against the New Orleans Saints. What better way to start off the 2024 Sunday six-pack season than by betting on the Panthers, who never led in the fourth quarter last year. But week one is just like in college football. Week one is tough for me in the NFL. A lot of times I bet, I'm betting on these markets have been open for a while. But I don't really have data points, spots, looking for schematic changes. So a lot of it I'm just observing. How I approach week one for a lot of my bets is I'm looking for some good dog spots, the dogs that could be undervalued. I'm also just betting on my convictions and the things that I felt during the offseason. And my first win total bet from our preseason podcast before the draft was the only one I bet early was the Panthers over win total. And I think they're going to be significantly improved. Bryce Young can't be any worse than last year, but I expect a much better performance, especially since the supporting cast is better. Upgrade the offensive line at both guard spots. Upgrade the wide receiver position by bringing in Deontay Johnson, drafting Xavier Legette from South Carolina, who I actually really like. Defensively, a little bit of a talent drain, but I trust Evero, their defensive coordinator. Fangio tree more cover three heavy, but just always well schooled, well schemed. We'll see if they can generate a pressure. I saw that Chason got released today. They got to find another edge guy opposite of Clowney. It's a major question mark. And that's really what I'm looking for in this game, because I do think that they'll be able to generate some pressure only because the Saints' offensive line is just a mess. And I think that's the one unit that is significantly weaker on both teams from last year. All right, now rookie left tackle, kicking your left tackle and Trevor Penning over to right tackle. He looks like he's just not built for the NFL in certain aspects when it comes to blocking as a tackle. Lucas Patrick at guard, I'm not sure about that. So, yeah, you lost Ramczyk, you lost Hurst, you lost a number of guys, and you didn't upgrade. And you're severely worse there. And we know Derek Carr, under pressure, his numbers fall off of a cliff. I will mention that these two teams who have gone under 7 straight times, and these teams and in those meetings, they've averaged 32 points per game. But I do think both offenses will be more modern and professional looking. They ran 2 of the lowest rates of both pre-snap motion and play action last year. Coordinator changes, I think you're going to see more of both, which will be helpful to both quarterbacks, especially Bryce Young. I think you're going to see him get outside the pocket more, get him moving, kind of to compensate for his lack of height in the pocket. And I think they're going to have some creative ways that they use him that the Saints might not be prepared for. Saints dealing with a few more injuries. And just to throw some trends in here, I'd like to use trends when they're actually applicable to what I'm looking for. And in this case, I think the Panthers were a little bit undervalued coming into the year. Road underdogs in week 1 that did not make the playoffs last year. So a lot of times it's like, hey, the market doesn't think they're any good. 90, 59, and 5 against the spread. Matches there. Titans, Panthers, Commanders, Broncos, Jaguars, Raiders, Patriots, Cardinals, and Jets. You don't want to play all of them blindly, but kind of just fits for what I'm looking for. And divisional dogs, man, week 1 divisional dogs, 60% past 20 years, 70% past 10 years. And one of our favorite trends that we always mention, Derek Carr and Dennis Allen as favorites have not had much success. Dennis Allen, 8-16 against the spread as a favorite. Derek Carr as a favorite of more than a field goal, right around 30% against the spread. Sample size close to 30 games. So I like the Panthers to keep this close. Hopefully, they'll have their first fourth quarter lead in more than 2 years. Give me Carolina +4.
Yeah, I love everything about this pick. This would have been my first if you didn't take it. So congrats. That's what you get. That's what I get for losing the contest last year. I didn't get first pick. Didn't get to pick the Panthers.
You say that now, but it's the Panthers. You might be the lucky one not having the Panthers when we come back here next week.
I am known as the Panther Whisperer, and I approve of this pick. So, I also bet the Panthers win total in like April or May. I bet the Panthers to win this division. I just think Canales coming over from Tampa as the head coach, it's going to be his offense. I think it's going to be night and day schematically. But I also, you mentioned getting him outside the pocket. They also spent over $100 million on the interior line. Robert Hunt from Miami, who's a top 6 guard, graded by Pro Football Focus. You got Lewis as well. So it's the personnel is improved. The scheme is improved. And the Saints come into the year with just a terrible offensive line. And, that's something that you mentioned week one, kind of looking for trends and convictions and things like that because we don't have as many data points. Offensive line and pressure tends to be something that is just overlooked by the market all year long. So I do want to kind of get ahead of this in week one with the fading the Saints. And the fact that it's Derek Carr and Dennis Allen is a bonus because we might only have so many more spots to bet against Dennis Allen. He is the odds-on favorite to be the first coach fired. We may have only so many more spots to bet against Derek Carr because Spencer Rattler, I think at some point, if Carr struggles, the crowd's going to be chanting his name. I'm already starting to hear buzz from Saints fans, who, by the way, The Athletic did a survey, and the Saints are the least optimistic fan base. So, usually you're kind of like, hey, Saints fans, I know your team is kind of mediocre, but, y'all suck. You just got to blow it up. But they already know that. So they're going to be pining for Rattler if Carr struggles at all and checks down 1,000,000 times to Alvin Kamara and then overthrows Olave 8 times in a row on the sideline once they get behind. So yeah, my bold call: Panthers lead wire to wire, including the entire fourth quarter. All right, for my first pick and the second overall, the week one Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Tennessee Titans +4 at the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears, a lot of hype this year, should be very improved. But I think people are sleeping on the fact that the Tennessee Titans are also going to be improved. And that's something that, maybe a lot of people wouldn't agree with, or, it just doesn't kind of jump off the page because you lose Mike Vrabel, who I don't necessarily agree with that firing, but I think you brought in a good coach in Brian Callahan, who comes over. He was the offensive coordinator with the Bengals. You upgraded the skill positions with Tony Pollard, with Calvin Ridley, with Tyler Boyd, and you upgraded 2 trouble spots on the offensive line, which was always your weakness, with Lloyd Cushenberry, who was a top 10 graded center, and then you have your draft pick, who you got at number 7, who should slot in at left tackle, Latham. So if there's a lot of improvement on the offense. Defensively, the secondary was a big issue, and that could take some time. But you did bring over a premier corner in L'Jarius Sneed. Awuzie should at least be able to give you league average play. I think he's a little on the older side now, so I'm not expecting much, but he's been a top corner in this league before. And then, you got Hooker at one spot in the safety, but you brought over Quandre Diggs, who, that could go either way, but another guy who's been a quality player in this league. You traded for Ernest Jones. That kind of went under the radar at linebacker, very good linebacker. So the defense, lost some pieces, but the defense should still be solid. It could even be very good. And you patched up a bunch of spots on offense. So you're giving Levis a chance to succeed. And I think he can be a pretty solid quarterback as long as he gets some time, and he's got good skill guys, which he has. So like everything about what the Titans did in the offseason, except the Vrabel firing. And, with the Bears, I just think the hype has kind of gotten out of hand. They're, starting a rookie quarterback in game number 1, and they're, already 4-point favorites against a team that's kind of in a similar boat to them, team quality wise. So I like Caleb Williams, like what they did around him, but still have some questions about the offensive line. Still going to take a little bit of time. And just historically, number 1 picks at quarterback have really struggled in their first games. Shouts to our guy, Evan Abrams. He went back and looked 27 number 1 picks since the merger in 1970. In their first start, 4-22-1 straight up, 7-20 against the spread. That's 27%. And, some other trends that kind of support the Titans, and we'll probably keep repeating these because they apply to quite a few teams. But week 1 underdogs that won between 4 to 6 games the prior season, 71 and 35, 67% against the spread over the past 20 years. And since they went to a 17-game season, 11-3, 79% against the spread over the last 3 seasons. So a lot of trends supporting the Titans. And I just don't think there's as big a disparity between these two teams as, the market does. So I'll take the Titans as 4-point dogs on the road, anything higher than a field goal.
Yeah, I like this as well. And is Hopkins, are you projecting Hopkins to be fully healthy? We're recording this before.
When is Hopkins ever fully healthy? No, but he has a chance to play. But even if he doesn't, you still have Ridley. And I think the thing with Ridley is that you're going to be able to use him in a better manner. Like, cause last year they had Ridley in Jacksonville playing the X for some reason. I don't know why. So in Tennessee, you still have Treylon Burks, who you can kind of, a guy who has some talent and just, couldn't stay healthy and had a kind of rough start to his career. But I actually think Burks is going to have a pretty good rebound season, Hopkins healthy or not. So you do have some options, even if he doesn't play. And that just kind of speaks to the way they kind of built up the roster. So there's a lot to like about Tennessee. But yeah, Hopkins would just be gravy. And I think if Hopkins is definitely ruled in, you might even see this line get down to 3.5. But either way, anything over field goal, give me Tennessee.
Yeah, I do like this. Denard Wilson comes over as defensive coordinator for the Titans. I think that they upgraded their defense. I mentioned the corner spot, brought in some veteran safeties. Ernest Jones, I think that was a good get because outside of Landry, that was a position of weakness. You draft Sweat to go along with Simmons on the defensive line. And Denard Wilson, was with the Ravens last year, but this is a guy that was, in his own words, he said he's groomed by Greg Williams and Todd Bowles. It's not going to be, he doesn't want to run, a mirror of what McDonald and the Ravens run. This is going to be more man heavy on the outside, aggressive. Expect blitzes, and that interior, that Bears offensive line is a question mark. That Titans defensive line, the blitzing could cause Caleb Williams into a mistake or two in his first career start. But for my second pick and the 3rd overall of the week 1 Sunday 6-pack, I'm fading another rookie quarterback in Mr. Bo Nix. Unfortunately for me, this week it's not Bo Nix season. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks -6 at home. Another one of my conviction bets. I think the Seattle team, bit undervalued coming into the year. My other over win total that I bet besides the Panthers was the Seahawks. And this is a bet on Mike McDonald. His game plans on a weekly basis were spectacular. All of this time to prepare, all off season, home opener. I think that defense is going to be well prepared, well schooled, and confuse Bo Nix into a critical mistake or two. You mentioned first overall picks struggling in week 1. Historically, all rookie quarterbacks have been about 500 against the spread. Where you really see a drop off is when they have to go on the road for their first start. And I think they've averaged 18 points per game. The last rookie first round quarterback to win on the road in week one was Sam Darnold back in 2018. So I think hostile environment here against an improved, well-schooled defense. I think Bo Nix is going to struggle. And I'm not in love with this Broncos roster overall. The defense doesn't wow me. So I think that Geno Smith will have enough success with that rushing attack and his receivers. I think Connor Williams has a chance to play at center, worth monitoring, because that's the one thing I'm worried about is the Seahawks offensive line. But the Broncos are not a team that I'm overly concerned about going up against when you do have some offensive line questions. So I think the Seahawks jump out here, force Nix into mistakes, and win by a touchdown plus. Give me Seattle at home.
Yeah, I'm actually higher than the market on both of these teams. So I'm not going to be betting this game, or at least I'm not going to be betting a side on this game. I kind of get it with Seattle, first game for Knicks. Don't love betting against Sean Payton as a dog, but I think Geno Smith is kind of being underrated and slept on. It was always going to be an adjustment period with Canales leaving and whatnot. They had some bad luck last year. So if you're going to bet on Seattle and bet against Peyton, I think the time is now. Just because I think the Broncos are only going to get better. I actually like them to go over their win total as well. But I do think Seattle's being slept on. Your boy Ryan Grubb, I think, should help out that offense, help out Geno, and they got the skill guys. Their question marks are really on the offensive line as well. And Denver is just, I don't really know what I'm getting, So like I'm bullish about them, but a lot of that is just based on I think the market was kind of rating them at their floor, and they might be rating them at their floor here, +6 against a mediocre Seattle team, but just not enough for me either way, because I am kind of bullish on both sides.
Yeah, one final note is the schematically what the Broncos run and do and their MO doesn't really worry me about some of the things that give Geno fits. But where are you going for your second pick?
So for my second pick, good segue, because we just talked about a rookie quarterback struggling on the road, but I'm betting on a rookie quarterback on the road with Washington +3.5 at Tampa Bay. Jaden Daniels, of course, in his first start. And I get it. Rookie quarterbacks do tend to struggle on the road, but this is just too many points for me with a mediocre to below average Tampa Bay team that lost Dave Canales. So the same reason we're bullish on Carolina, or one of the reasons we're bullish on Carolina, is Canales going over there. And I think there's going to be an adjustment period with Baker Mayfield because they are installing a new offense here. There's going to be more motion and things like that, but there's going to be a learning curve for this offense. Godwin's making the switch back, to the slot. There's a lot of changes even compared to last year when the Bucs, outperformed expectations. And this Washington team comes in, now you're getting more than a field goal. Make sure you shop around for the best number, but the 3.5s are out there. And I just don't think this Washington team is significantly worse in any way than Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield, I think a lot of it was Canales. And before he came along, Baker Mayfield was thought of as one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He was bouncing around between the Panthers. He lost the starting job. Then he went to the Rams and had a little bit of a resurgence. So I think it's not going to necessarily be what you saw last year with Mayfield this year going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned the Seahawks were unlucky in Geno Smith last year. The Bucs were lucky. So you could see positive regression for the Seahawks offense, negative for the Bucs, and in a few aspects.
And you have Cohn, who he does have some familiarity with Mayfield from their time in LA, but that year, that was the Rams' worst offensive year ever. The 1 year Cohn was actually coordinator. Now I know it's generally the McVay show, but it doesn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence, especially in week one. And I just think this Washington team is going to be there's just a big culture change here. Dan Quinn, he was a guy that we kind of targeted when he was in Atlanta, but I think has changed. He'll probably have this defense that still leaves some things to be desired personnel wise, but he'll probably have this defense playing a lot better than a guy like Del Rio did a year ago. So, some of these perceived weaknesses, for this Washington defense, could be a little better than expected. I'm looking at you secondary. Tampa Bay's one of their biggest weaknesses is the interior line. You got a rookie at center.
Washington
and
take advantage of that.
Yeah, the guards, and you got Allen and Payne in the middle with just the two guys they didn't trade away. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Bobby Wagner lurking behind those guys. So, and what does Baker Mayfield struggle with? Interior pressure. So, this is a good matchup for Washington. I think, with Tampa Bay's defense, it's hit or miss. Todd Bowles should have them playing all right. But with Jaden Daniels, that's kind of what you want, because Tampa Bay, they have good safeties on the back end. But Washington, they're not really going to, they have Terry McLaurin and they don't know what they're doing at receiver. So you just need a guy like Jaden Daniels to run around, create some stuff off schedule. And I think that's how Washington stays in it. But I think the defense for Washington is a little underrated, and the offense for Tampa Bay is a little overrated. And these are already just two kind of 5 to 7, 8-ish wins, if you're being generous, quality teams. I think, Tampa Bay, you mentioned, got lucky last year, and then they faced the Eagles in the playoffs, who were just on the worst downturn ever. So they end up winning a playoff game. So I think the perception of Tampa is a little skewed, but these are just two below average teams. And every year you see a bunch of these teams in that glut. And week one, that's why week one dogs really, I think, kill it, is because there's all these perceptions from the prior year are just carrying over, and you don't realize that they're just all this is all the same team. And when that happens, underdogs are going to win quite a few of these games. So even though, yes, you have the rookie quarterback trend working against you, you do have a lot of trends benefiting Washington. Week one dogs, mentioned it, that won between 4 and 6 games the prior season, 71 and 35, 67%. Todd Bowles is a favorite of a field goal or more. 7 and 14, just 33% against the spread in his career. Baker Mayfield as a favorite of any number, 14 and 26, 35% against the spread in his career. Week one road underdogs, you already mentioned, Stuck, that didn't make the prior postseason, are 50 and 30, 63% since 2012. So there's just a boatload of trends to support Washington. And, they got the secret weapon, just a dual threat quarterback. His name is Colson Yankoff, and he plays tight end and special teams. So look out for him.
Yeah, it's I think it's Commanders or nothing here, but I'm not as high on others on Daniels. Told you I think he's Justin Fields. But
you don't like Cliff. You don't like Cliff either.
And Cliff.
I'm betting on Quinn and Cliff. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I actually think this is it's amazingly, it's the Commanders' 8th different starting quarterback in week one over the past 8 seasons. I think if this could be a sneaky over. I think Bowles is going to blitz, try to bring the house. The Washington offensive line is definitely shaky. That's where Daniels' legs can really, have an impact here, extending plays, extending drives on third downs, buying time, and then hitting some explosive plays against a vulnerable group of corners that Tampa has. And on the other side, the Washington secondary, major questions. And, Tampa still has very talented wide receivers. So I think in this game, there's the potential for, and that Quinn is going to have an aggressive defense. And I think there's a potential for a lot of explosive plays in this game, which is what you want in today's NFL when you're betting an over, because that's where most overs go to die, is when you just have these methodical drives. And then I wouldn't be surprised if there's some turnover regression for Mayfield this year if Daniels makes a mistake or two. So you could have, defensive score, shorter fields. But I think there's going to be some potential for a lot of explosive plays in this game. So sneaky over would lean Washington, especially at 3.5. I think this line should probably be a field goal. But for my third pick and the 5th overall of the Week 1 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings -1.5. Shop around, see if you can get a 1 or cheap money line. For this contest, doesn't matter. Pushes or losses. Pushes aren't wins, so we're always on based on a half point. But I like the Vikings here. So I'm betting on Geno, Bryce Young, and now Sam Darnold.
On the road, weighing points.
Yep, feels good to be back. This handicap to me is, again, I'm higher than the Vikings in the market coming into the year. And there's a number of things that I just really like about this Vikings staff that I think are going to come in handy here. Number one, Brian Flores. He is going to have some, exotic blitzes and coverages cooked up for week one. He's going to bring a lot of unique blitzes, a lot of pressure against Daniel Jones, who just completely falls apart when that occurs against the blitzer under any pressure. The Giants' offensive line dealing with injuries, still not that great. Shifting guys all around, no continuity, even a new offensive line coach. Flores is going to take advantage of that. Yes, you have Malik Neighbors, but I'll take I look at both these quarterbacks, it's a wash. And I think that there's even maybe some more upside just with Sam Darnold. He got to work with Shanahan. Apparently, his footwork is better. Now he's getting to work with O'Connell. Look what O'Connell did with his stable quarterbacks he had to work with last year after Cousins went down. Darnold's better than them. And Addison's trending up. Looks like he's going to play. Naylor as well. You have Jordan Jefferson. Who's covering them in the secondary? What did I say?
Jordan. I think you mixed up Justin Jefferson and Jamar Jefferson on the Lions and made them into one person.
Jordan Addison. No, Jordan Addison.
Okay. Yeah, I'm bugging too. Yeah. Jordan, next those.
So
that would be a receiver. Nobody.
The Giants secondary is horrendous across the board. You or I could go out there and throw it to these receivers. On the other, look, the Giants' strength on their defense is their pass rush, but the Vikings' strength outside of their receivers, and look, you also have Aaron Jones, I think was a big get, is their tackles. They have one of the better tackle duos in the league. Now, where this could all fall apart, which worries me a little bit about laying points on the road with Sam Darnold, which is very scary, is if Lawrence just causes havoc on Bradbury and that interior offensive line. That's exactly what happened in the Giants-Vikings playoff game. He got pushed back the entire game. That worries me a bit, but I think they can neutralize their edge rush with their tackles. No one's going to be able to cover. The Giants also have some injuries they're dealing with at linebacker. No one's going to be able to cover these receivers. On the other end, I think Flores is going to cook up some exotic looks, pressures, confuse Daniel Jones into sacks, mistakes. And while the Vikings secondary isn't great, they have some veterans. They're in better shape than the Giants are in that aspect. And the Vikings have a better overall receiver room, even though I know the Giants added Malik Neighbors. So, yeah, I like the Vikings to get this done on the road. O'Connell will have them prepared. Flores will have this defense ready to go. Daniel Jones, just not the answer. And I just compare these two rosters. Where do you feel more confident about the Giants compared to the Vikings? Name the positions. Not running back. It's not quarterback. It's not offensive line. It's not receiver. It's maybe defensive line. But then you're going up against a really good Vikings pair of tackles. It's not the secondary. The Vikings, I think, are just better across the board. Well coached. Will be well prepared here. Daniel Jones at home too. Not been great in his career against the number. So yeah, I like the Vikings. I'm laying points with Sam Darnold on the road. What could go wrong?
I had this game circled because I was like, I have to be on the Vikings in this game. And then I looked at the number and I'm like, Jesus, we're all at 1.5. So the market is definitely sharp here. And I was kind of looking forward to this segment because I essentially kind of needed to talk this through about, because I want to be on the Vikings and I think
I'm playing money line for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm about to say that. I'll probably just play the money line as well. But for me, first of all, I was just dismayed watching Hard Knocks and just the thought processes that they did try. I know there's a lot that they didn't, but there was just a lot of errors in the way Joe Schoen is thinking about things. I just think, he came from Buffalo and he learned under Bean, and that was all great. But it's a lot easier when you have Josh Allen to build a team. And I just think some of the decisions most of the decisions he's made haven't worked out. And now, there's the fame. He's like, oh, we're not going to pay Daniel Jones all this money to hand off to $12 million running back or whatever it was. First of all, you still gave Devin Singletary top 15 money in terms of guarantees and contract, but whatever. The problem is all Giants fans know. The reason we love Daboll is because he came over here and essentially said, Daniel Jones, just chill, check it down. If it's not there, run it. Now, I see in the offseason they're imploring Daniel Jones to take more deep shots. That's when you get into trouble. Like, how do they not know this? They already paid the guy $50 million, and that was a mistake. But how do you not know that? Like, Daniel Jones holding onto the ball is now he can lead the league in fumbles. I think he led the league in turnovers his like first 2 years in the league, and then he's accurate, short, intermediate. He's not bad, but deep he's not terribly accurate. So. Like, now you're just introducing all these Daniel Jones mistakes back into the equation, and that's something you didn't even really have, even for most of this Daboll tenure. So, like, I don't love that. And on top of that, you mentioned it, the offensive line's still not good. He still takes too many sacks, and it's his first regular season game coming off a serious knee injury. So, will the running be there to bail him out? I don't know. Will they be comfortable calling as many designed runs? I don't know.
And there's no Barkley to pay attention to anymore.
There's no Barkley. So now you're playing Daniel Jones, and like this is all out there in the open. It's like, yeah, we want Daniel Jones to deep. We're gonna pass more. So it's like now you're just sitting on Daniel Jones. Like, this is just not what I want. So yeah, it's Vikings or nothing. Even though this seems like a spot where we would usually be on the dog. Home dog week 1. Don't really know anything about these teams, but I think, like you said, I think the Vikings have an edge in almost every unit, every aspect, and I just don't think this is a great matchup for Daniel Jones. I don't think Flores is a great matchup for Daniel Jones. And by the way, Flores can be a lot more multiple this year because they actually, on paper, maybe the Vikings don't wow you with some of their moves, but Stephon Gilmore, Griffin.
You have guys that aren't out of position that you can
right, and they can and Flores. The important thing is Flores is going to feel comfortable being even more multiple than he was last year. Where I think he played he dropped 3 at the highest rate and also played cover 0 at the highest rate. I think that was the stat you had, right?
Yeah, dropped
8. Sorry, yeah, rush
also
3,
cover
rush
2.
Yeah. So now you're going to be confusing Daniel Jones in addition to all these other things. Like, it just spells disaster for the Giants. And then on the other side, the Giants' weakest unit is the secondary because they put everything into the line. So this Vikings team good enough at the tackle spots. And the secondary, Deonte Banks, even if he does make the leap, you're not covering Justin Jefferson. But Deonte Banks was ranked outside the top 100 corners last year at PFF. He's your number one. You're probably going to start a rookie at one of the safety spots. Pretty much everyone on your secondary is unsung. It's not like anyone, if you're not a Giants fan, you can just rattle off the names of the guys in their secondary. I mean, they just bring back Adoree Jackson like a week before their season, and now he might have to start. And by the way, he was graded as one of the worst. He was even worse than Banks last year. So
yeah, I said. By the way, I remember our offseason, I said the Giants should do that. Why did they wait so long?
Because now he's not even been in camp and working with these other unsung guys in the secondary. I mean, he's worked with some of them before, but this could just set up as a disaster. Darnold is not great. That's why I was like, oh man, laying points on the road with Darnold. I don't know. It doesn't feel right, but it feels even. It doesn't feel any more right, like leaving not fading the Giants this week, because this is just a terrible matchup. And Minnesota's going to come out hungry because their schedule after this. Oh man, this might be the only win they get over the first half of the year if things don't play out well for them. So yeah, I like the Vikings.
Laying points on the road with Sam Darnold feels right to me because it's like taking an ugly dog. It's ugly. It hurts. It stings. It's not pretty. But where are you going for their final pick?
For my third and final pick, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 3.5 at the Miami Dolphins. This is just a play on the number for me. I make this closer to 2.5. The Dolphins and the Jaguars, they're similar teams. So it comes down to home field for the Dolphins, and it's not really, you're not traveling if you're the Jaguars. Both teams play in Florida. Dolphins don't have the Dolphins do have a good home field advantage when they play some of those teams like Buffalo and whatnot. And I guess they have the sideline thing with the shade on one side. So whatever, they should be the favorite, fine. But I think the Jaguars are being undervalued in this spot. The Jaguars got really unlucky last year. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a lot better than his numbers showed, especially last year. Because he's had, I think, the most drops over this first 3 years of any quarterback. Just a lot of unlucky things going down in the red zone for Jacksonville last year. But on paper, like, or not even just on paper, like if you look at how these, both of these offenses, like Miami has the flashy guys, the Tyreeks and the Achans and whatnot, but Jacksonville, very solid skill position corps. ETN at running back. Really like Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver. Remember, their wide receivers were banged up last year. Christian Kirk. You have they brought in Gabe Davis, great run blocker. So he could be the number 5 option now. So it's not like in Buffalo where they were counting on him to be the number 2 or 3 guy. He's probably your number 5 because Brian Thomas has looked good. Kirk is outplayed expectations, and Engram's been a beast. ETN, you can use him. You can move him all around. And then the offensive line, a lot of injuries last year, should be better, was bad last year. Defensively, Jacksonville is, they always kind of leave you wanting on that side of the ball, but I think Jacksonville has enough pieces there. You're not going to always completely stop Miami, but Darby, it's early in the year, so as long as he's healthy, I think he might be an upgrade. You still got Campbell on the other side. Johnson's played well at times in the slot. I like the linebackers, Lloyd and Aluakun. You're still looking for another edge rusher, but you added Armstead on the interior. You still got Hines Allen. So there's pieces there. You added Savage on the secondary. So I think Jacksonville overall just going to be a lot better than they were, or better than they were last year. And this was already a 9-8 team last year. And Miami's kind of a similar type of team. And when they played teams like this, the narrative is Miami can't be great competition. But when they play kind of similar teams, a lot of times, even if Miami wins, it's like 1 point, 2 points. We saw that last year, week 1. They play the Chargers. They win by 2 points. They play the Cowboys late in the year. They win by 2 points. So Miami laying 3.5 at home, it's just too much. 3, I could understand it a little bit more. I would still be on the Jaguars if I had to pick a side, but 3.5, you're just begging me to take Jacksonville, and I will oblige. Wouldn't be surprised if the Jags win this game outright. It's just a matter of, is Tyreek Hill going to just go off for like 4 explosives, or can you limit him to like 2 explosives? That might decide it, but I think these teams are too evenly matched for Miami to be laying 3.5 in an interstate game.
Yeah, I would lean that way. It's good live betting game in my opinion. Like, it's hard to see like who's getting stops in this game. That the Dolphins aren't going to have the Dolphins have a long list of injuries that I'm monitoring.
Oh my God, their defense, man.
Like even down to like Ramsey. So I'm monitoring that, which works in the favor of your side with the hook. And but can the Jags, the Dolphins offensive line has questions, but Tua is just going to be getting the ball out quick. Can the Jags secondary actually cover these receivers in space? I have my concerns. It's a new defensive scheme as well. Dennis Allen, true, you're going to see more man, and I don't know if they have the dudes. I mean, Darby's not getting any younger. But on the other side, the Dolphins, without Phillips, without Chubb, are they going to get pressured? That's what you need to do to Lawrence, is you have to get pressure and his numbers fall off a cliff. I'm not sure the Dolphins can get pressure here. So it's hard for me to see either defense really having sustained success. I don't really like betting overs week 1. But if I had to, I would look at the over. Instead, I much prefer the Jags side at the hook, but team goes up, bet the team that's behind. I think it's a good live betting game, betting on the chaser, because I think that both offenses will have a lot of success. I don't think the defenses have a lot to offer in form of resistance, so I like it there. So what's the recap?
So you have the Carolina Panthers +4, the Seattle Seahawks -6, and the Vikings -1.5. I have the Titans +4, the Washington Redskin Commander football team +3.5, and the Jacksonville Jaguars +3.5. So you have Bryce Young, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. I have Will Levis, Jaden Daniels in his first start on the road, and Trevor Lawrence. So we have one-ish respectable quarterbacks, at least coming into the year. I like Daniels more than you. Yeah, exactly the way we like it. That's our week 1 Sunday six pack.